Good afternoon, welcome to Space Oddities. You're here to watch our launch coverage of the Starship. SpaceX are having another attempt this afternoon to launch the Starship into orbit, and with fingers, legs, and everything else crossed that this time it actually happens. They've been working a few issues since Monday. They had a frozen valve on Monday, which I believe they've only managed to fix within the last few hours. They also had an issue with the quick disconnect arm, the umbilical that feeds the spacecraft fuel and power and data and everything else. But that seems to have been resolved, and the countdown is now going ahead. So let's just have a look and see what's going on in Boca Chica. But before I do, welcome to Daz and welcome to Bernard. How are you guys?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we're doing
We're
good.
all
Excited.
fine and getting excited again. It's not good for me ticker, all this excitement over the week.
No, indeed.
That's if that's your concern, I recommend you to go to horticulture or something like that.
Crocheting. Crocheting, yeah. Watch YouTube videos on crocheting.
Yeah. So launch is scheduled for about an hour's time, and we await with bated breath to see what actually happens. Let's have a look and see what it looks like over at Boca Chica. This is what Boca Chica looks like at the moment. It was very foggy when the sun came out, but it's now seems to have abated somewhat. And as you can see, there's lots of activity there, lots of white vapor swirling around. Both the booster, the booster's two fuel tanks, as you can see, are iced up, the white bands across the booster. So they're well into fueling the booster. They haven't quite started the Starship fueling by the look of it, but that won't take as long as the booster. And we're just waiting to see what happens. So, guys, any thoughts about this afternoon?
Well, basically, I just hope we get some action today. I mean, we got so close. What was it, 14 minutes when they decided that, well, when they first noticed the problems, and then it was scrubbed about 4 minutes later. So we got so close. I hope we've got our school children in that we had last time. I'd hate to think that they're going to miss it today if it happens. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's get this thing flying. Let's get it sorted. Let's move on. So as I said, I can't do with all this excitement, you know.
Well, I see in the chat, Kev's there. Hello, Kev. How are you? Let's see who else joins us. If you do have any questions, put them in the chat, and we will do our very best to answer them. So this has been, again, as we were saying on Monday, a long road to get to this point. And I can't believe that it's actually good. But you know, if they've resolved the problems, then there's a chance it could happen. But again, it may be delayed again. But we'll just have to wait and see. These things are not easy, and the Starship being the tallest, most powerful rocket ever flown, and you know, certainly one of the most complex. Anything could happen. So we can't tell you what's going to happen today because we just don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to add that, of course, you know, the historical moment and all the rest. But it's amazing what SpaceX has been able to do to reach to this point. This morning, actually, in our internal chats amongst Space Oddities, we were talking about Ariane 6 and the difficulties the European Space Agency had in relation. Actually, I don't even know if it's who's managing the Ariane program. But anyway, the difficulties Europe had in developing their next launcher and the delays and the cost overruns and in the face of all this, they're not even sure whether they're going to be able to do the maiden launch this year, which has already been postponed quite a few years, and it's looking more certain that it's going to move to next year. And in contrast, we have, you know, this amazing private enterprise, which, you know, of course, Elon Musk has said many times that, you know, Starship was going to launch a few years before, but at least, you know, it's there. It's looking ready, and it's looking like it's going to launch, and for that, this is just you know, the amount of effort that has been required to be able to come to this stage is extraordinary. And I think just for that, even if unfortunately the launch might be scrubbed again, because these are complex engineering system, even if the launch doesn't take place today, which we hope not, of course, it's already an amazing achievement just to arrive at this stage, given the complexity of all this. So I'm just looking here, waiting to be amazed, but I am already amazed at what I'm looking at.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And when you think that it was only in 2019 when Elon Musk announced that the Starship was going to be built in the first place, that they've come from what was an idea to an orbital attempt in less than 4 years. It's an incredible pace of development. And I think with SpaceX have demonstrated the big difference between the way they do things and the way that, for example, NASA and ESA do things. The way that NASA and ESA do things is that they try and think of every conceivable problem that could happen to the rocket. And they solve all those problems and design them out, if you like, before they even build the rocket. Whereas what SpaceX have done is that they've built a rocket, tested it. If it failed, work out why, fix it, build another one, and so on. And this so-called iterative testing has enabled them to move a lot faster than any other agency or company in history building rockets. So, and here we are in 2023 with a vehicle that could well get into orbit today. We don't know. But the pace of development of the Starship has been absolutely unbelievable. And when you think that it's actually now just about 2 years since it last flew, which was SN15, which was the one that finally managed to land intact after its flight. There was a very, very, very short space of development, rapid development from the first Starship to SN15. And the space industry has never ever seen anything like it. So it's been an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah, it certainly has. As you said, it was 2 years ago that we last watched a Starship actually fly. I'm just wondering what the fascination is with the helicopter.
I don't know.
There seems to be. I'm just waiting for a ground-to-air missile to take it out or something. I've also just noticed on our stream the whole thing's disappeared in a cloud of steam or something of mist. So yeah, it certainly is misty there, as you said, Andy. And of course, the last time we saw anything launch in the mist, which we couldn't see, if you remember, I think it was SN11. That when it came back down again, exploded mid-air, and all we saw was a shower of debris come down.
Yes,
if you remember.
That's right.
So we hope that's it's not an omen that if you launch in the fog. But things are progressing, as you can see. They've just put up the timetable. So the ship locks, load begins. So yeah, things are moving on. So fingers crossed. And we hope we get this thing away today.
Yes, indeed. And there's the countdown timeline that NASA Spaceflight have just put up on the screen, and it looks like they are loading the fuel into the Starship now. They're loading the locks into the Starship. They've started doing that, and everything else is on that list has been cleared. So the booster is fueled apparently. So now they move on to the Starship itself.
Yeah, excellent.
And I just wanted to add, what I said earlier was not a criticism of Ariane 6 or even the SLS. They just operate under very different parameters and have very different objectives in terms of how those programs started. This just shows us the incredible pace that the private industry, new space, really can go through.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to say, sorry, go ahead, Daz.
No, you carry on because you're in flow there. Carry on.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say there's just something personal is that I lived 5 hours away from this launch site. I'm only 35 years late. When I was a kid, I lived in Houston, Texas. And how I wished I could be there now, so I would have driven 5 hours just to go to the site and see this thing take off.
Well, not to be a doomsayer, Bernard. I think really, if you were only 5 miles away, you'd still be in the blast zone if things go wrong. So probably a good job.
Okay, I'm safe in.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
I'm safe.
That's not going to happen.
It's fine. I'm in Wiltshire now, so I'm safe and sound.
There's always debris.
Oh, right.
No, it's But you were talking about the Ariane, of course. With the European rocket building, the Arianes and that, of course, they're in the same position as the USA. Is in that in the USA they invented ULA, which was basically a government-run monopoly for launching the military satellites and government satellites, and of course that's fallen behind times because of political things throughout the world and things like that. They lost their engines and everything. Well, it was the same with the Arianes, is that the European community have also said that they want all their satellites and things like that, military satellites, also launched on Arianes. And of course, now that Ariane's struggling, they're in the same position. And this is why now they're looking towards SpaceX to launch some of their satellites. But I think also Andy noted when we were talking about it earlier in the chat that also there's still this problems with Ariane as well, is reusability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, carry on, Andy.
No, I was going to say reusability for the Ariane 5 is the Achilles heel, because they will, what was envisioned as a rocket to compete with the SpaceX Falcon 9 can never ever be as cheap as the Falcon 9 because you can't reuse it. And SpaceX have been able to bring the cost of launching satellites right down massively simply by being able to reuse their first stages. And if the Ariane 6 can't do that, then it will not be able to compete on price. But as Bernard pointed out, they're going to keep funding it. But they won't get the market that they wanted because it can never compete with the Falcon 9. And I think the decision not to go with a reusable vehicle was a huge mistake, because even in 2014, when they were first talking about it, it was obvious that reusability was going to be the key to bringing down the cost of putting stuff into orbit. So I think Europe will regret that if they don't already, the fact that they haven't designed a rocket that is reusable. But of course, they put a lot of money into it, so they're not going to stop funding it now.
No, and as we mentioned, there's also national interests at play here. As you mentioned. So they're just like with the SLS, they're just going to carry on funding it, irrespective of the fact that SpaceX is gobbling up the whole market and to their advantage. They're really, there's a gap at the moment in the launchers. As we've just said, with problems with Ariane's development, ULA, and other various launchers, and SpaceX is very well suited in order to fill in this gap, and even more so if Starship takes off today.
Yes, indeed, because if it does take off, Bernard, it will change everything. It will be such a game changer,
and that's why we're here.
And that's why we're here, because they'll be able to launch not just a few dozen satellites at a time, but hundreds of satellites at a time.
Yes, and by the way, viewers, we're seeing more people coming in, and hi, Amber, thanks for saying hello, as well as Chris. If you have any questions, we will definitely try to answer them. So please pop in your questions in relation to anything in relation to this rocket and the program itself. Feel free to post questions.
And I'd also like to say to our viewers on Facebook, hello Facebook, if you're out there. Send us a message if you're out there, Facebook, in the live chat, and just to see who's there. And yes, any questions at all, anything you want to know about this whole Starship project or SpaceX or spaceflight in general, do please ask your questions in the comment, because we do appreciate receiving them. And we're now, where are we, 14:45, so the SpaceX live coverage is about to begin. So if you just excuse me for one moment, I will just go and check that out. I'll just remove the NASA spaceflight coverage for the moment, and we'll go and see what's happening with SpaceX. So I'll be back very shortly.
Oh, while Andy does that, I'd like to remind everyone to like and subscribe if you haven't done so. That helps us carry on and build up momentum on this channel.
Yeah, as you can see, Amber's given it away. She's actually my daughter. So
oh,
she's just down the road from you. She's in Swindon.
Oh, really? Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So yeah, she's in Swindon. So
cool.
Yeah, you're neighbours.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, she wasn't able to join Monday, and she thought she'd missed it, but yeah, she's been able to join today. So hopefully it'll go well. Yeah, people are joining. Chris has joined us. Nice to see Chris.
Yeah, nice, Chris. Hi again.
And we just hope that this we're not going to be disappointed today. As you can see, it's Starbase. It's quite foggy, but the loading is going ahead quite nicely. They've started loading the actual Starship with the LOX, which is the oxygen, and so hopefully we'll things are moving on. So let's the countdown. We've got 41 minutes. So that yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm getting excited again.
SpaceX are late starting with their live coverage, so we'll just keep an eye on that and see how that's going.
Oh,
they're normally late, so nothing to worry about. It doesn't mean anything. Do we know how many orbits are planned? No, Chris. There are no orbits planned. The Starship is going to, or the plan is for Starship to splash down towards the end of its first orbit, which I think about 99% of it. It's going to get as far as Hawaii before it splashes down. So the plan is to splash down off the coast of Hawaii at the end of the first orbit. So you can't really call it an orbital flight as such, because it's not even going to complete one orbit. But it's being called an orbital flight because it will reach orbital velocity, and it will actually be technically in orbit, even though it's not going to complete one orbit, if that makes any sense. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's going to reach the height of, let me find it here somewhere. It's going to reach the height of 146 miles, which is 234 kilometers. It will splash down in the Pacific Ocean 140 miles from off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. Right. But the Super Heavy booster, meanwhile, will return to the Gulf of Mexico, which is about 20 miles away from where Starbase is. And that will happen about 20 minutes after takeoff.
Yeah.
But that will be a controlled splashdown. They will be using the engines to slow it down, to gather data, to see, because what you've got to remember, this is the first time the booster has ever actually flown. So they will have that cram-packed with all these monitoring systems, all these sensors, which will just provide tons of data, which is what they're looking for. And then, but the actual Starship will do an uncontrolled belly flop into the it may right itself, but it is an uncontrolled splashdown. So both of these are both expendable, unfortunately, just for this test. So I just thought I'd put that in there.
Well, I actually have a question regarding to that to both of you. Why have they? I know these are complicated, but why did they decide to have an uncontrolled re-entry of the Starship? Whereas we've seen that it could actually control itself.
No, it's not going to be uncontrolled in that sense. They are going to bring it back belly first, because they need to test the heat shields. That's the important thing to test.
Yeah,
right. But it's not going to flip vertical at the end. It's simply going to belly flop into the ocean. They want to get as much data about the heat shield as they can, and they thought that if they tried to turn it into the vertical position like we've seen with Starships,
Yeah.
that would overcomplicate things. They want to get data from the heat shield. So
Got it.
there we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Can I just answer?
They have.
Sorry, can I just answer Chris's question? Chris said, "Is it
Yeah.
foggy there, or just the cryo load?" It is a mixture of both, Chris. Before the sun rose, it was exceptionally foggy at Boca Chica. A lot of it's burned off in the sun now, but there's an awful lot of cryogenic vapor floating around, as you can see, a lot. So it's a mixture of fog and cryogenic vapor that you're seeing there. We've got glints of sunlight on the rocket there, so the rest of the fog looks to be burning off nicely. The wind is about 12.5 kilometers an hour, so no wind to speak of, which is great because we were worried the other day that there was a problem with that high altitude winds, but that didn't seem to materialize in the end, thankfully. And the weather looks absolutely perfect for the launch. So we're just waiting now, and we're just about 38 minutes away from the launch. 38 minutes. So 36 according to NASA spaceflight, but I think there's a lag in that. So I think just over half an hour anyway away from what could potentially be the launch of the Starship, hoping they fix the problems that they had on Monday. Otherwise, guys, we're just going to have to come back and keep doing this until they get it right. So you'll have to put up with us viewers coming back. But this could be an historic launch. So there's a view of the beach, and lots of people accumulated to watch the launch, which is great.
It's great given the fact how early it is, and
absolutely,
and
yes.
how all these people managed to get there at that time.
Yes, absolutely. Because what is it there? It's just it's before 8 o'clock in the morning there. So
yeah, I bet the Germans went down and put their beach towels down before everyone else did. Yeah, just sorry.
You can't resist.
Yeah, because when they do the belly flop maneuver, is that what they refer to as transonic?
No, transonic is literally when it passes from traveling faster than the sound to slower than sound.
Right. Okay, then I was just wondering because LGBT and all that stuff.
Right.
I'll just quickly run through what we are actually expect to see for the takeoff, if you don't mind.
I'll just go and have a look and see if SpaceX have actually started their live coverage yet.
Okay, then. So if I just run through this quickly, liftoff is T minus T0, and that's when we expect all the excitement will begin. So that's when we get the liftoff. In 55 seconds, Starship and the Super Heavy reach max Q. Now that's where, during the takeoff, the whole of the rocket will be experience the maximum pressure that it's going to experience it during takeoff. So that's something to look out for. You'll always hear max Q be called out. 2 minutes 49, the Super Heavy main engine will cut off. 2 minutes 53 seconds, you get stage separation. 2 minutes 57, Starship engine ignition, so that's the actual upper stage. 3 minutes 11 seconds, Super Heavy boosts back burn, so that means it will actually become that's the burn that will actually bring it back down to Earth. Yes. 7 minutes 32, Super Heavy is transonic, so that's when you were talking about when it goes from sonic to non-sonic. 7 minutes 40, the Super Heavy does its landing burn. Of course, as we said, this will be in the Gulf of Mexico. And 8 minutes 3 seconds, Super Heavy landing burns shutdown. And then, of course, as we said, it will splash down. In the meantime, the Starship engine would have been running for nearly 7 minutes. And then it will start, it will continue. The whole flight takes about 1 hour, 30 minutes. But at 1 hour, 17 minutes, 21 seconds, Starship starts its re-entry. and at 1:28:43, Starship is transonic, and then of course then we'll have the splashdown at 1 hour 30 minutes. So I just thought I'd run through that.
Okay. Guys, SpaceX have now started their live coverage, but I'm just going to have to quickly reboot my PC because it's again, it's running like a dog. So I will return shortly, okay? Just chat amongst yourselves.
Okay,
Yeah, no problem. Well, basically, we have Mike, astronaut Wales. Do you know him, Daz?
Oh, by the way, just
Mike Astronaut. Sorry,
Daz.
Carry on, Andy.
Just before I go, hello Southfield. Hello,
Yes.
Year 1 at Southfield. We'll give you a wave. Wave to Rachel's class.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, all the
How are
kids.
you? Glad you could join us.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad they were able to get in.
Yeah, me too. Okay, I'm going. I'll be back.
Okay, then. Yeah, I've lost my thread now. I forgot what I was going to talk about.
Mike, who's been.
Oh yeah, Mike Astronaut, Kimaru. He was with us on Monday,
Right.
so he's an avid watcher.
Yeah, thank you.
According to published plans, ship engines will be cut before orbital velocity reached about 2/3 of an orbit. Yeah. Then it will come down off the coast of Hawaii. Yeah, exactly. That's what we were just saying. Because they did advertise that they'll only be using 90% thrust on the engines for this test flight. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's not carrying a payload. It's heavy enough, and if they can get up at 90%, then all well and good. It's not going to be carrying so much fuel because, like I said, the Starship will not be doing a controlled splashdown. So yeah, if you can do it with 90%, even better. If you can do it at 100% when you've got something on board. Hi, Rog.
Hi.
Good
Hi,
afternoon. Hi, Bernard.
How are things?
I'm all excited.
Yeah, we
Good.
all are.
But looking at the everyday astronaut, he was a little bit concerned that some of his cameras wouldn't even be able to see some of the launch pad. But he says it does clear quite quickly once the sun burns it off. So hopefully it'll be just in time to get some spectacular views. Whether it goes up or whether it goes boom.
That's it. Look, be positive. Be positive. Mike Astronaut also said basically it will be launched into a high eccentric orbit, which has a perigee inside the Earth. Okay. So yeah, hello Southfield. Lovely to see you again. People are saying hello. Stan from America is waving to you, so all wave back to Stan. Kev saying hello to you, and he said hi, Roger.
Hello.
So,
So
yeah.
I'm really pleased to hear about the clearing of the skies in Boca Chica because we watched the Juice launch and was a great launch, and I'm so pleased that Juice has gone on its way. But the launch was really cut short. Well, actually, the view of the launch was cut short because the clouds were really low in the sky, and so you saw Ariane 5 take off majestically, and then that was it. And it's a bit of an anticlimactic, and which is we're having an echo. Is the reason why we're having an echo? I'm hearing myself as an echo. Can you guys hear me as an echo?
No, you're fine to us.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say that long live clear skies when there are great rocket launches like these.
Yeah, well, of course, when you were talking about the Juice, the cloud was also so thick we couldn't even see the glow of the engines as it took off.
Yeah.
But again, that was another perfect launch, just like the James Webb. So it proves that the Arianes can do it. They just need to try and get their act together and get everything sorted. But it's like everything else. It's all space. If space was easy, everybody would be doing it. So it's this is why we do test flights, and this is what this is. And as we said, we're all disappointed Monday, but it's best to be sure that everything's going to go correctly. There's no point in just blowing something up for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Just looking at the screen and the refueling, you can see the frost lines are well and truly on their way now.
Maybe I can patch
and we
I can patch that feed onto the.
Yeah, it's I'm looking at the NASA space flight. But yeah, you can see it's there's clearing now because we can actually see it through the from a long distance as well. So fingers crossed that everything clears and we we get a nice clean launch.
Let me patch it in. Here we go.
Yeah, remember the children at Southfield. If you've got any questions, pop them in the. Ask your teacher to pop them in the chat, and if we can answer them, we will do for you. Don't be shy. And remember, this is a historic event. If this launches, it's going to be a game changer for space flight and space travel. So you're watching history in the making. So a big thumbs up. So,
and as I mentioned a bit earlier, I have to go and pick up my daughter in 25 minutes. She's at school. And I'm seeing here that the launch is in 25 minutes. And I'm like, this is just not fair. This is so not fair. I have to bike to the school. So I don't know. I'm probably going to have my phone and bike with one hand. Yeah. I'll try and stay alive.
Hey. Yeah. Can you cycle with using a phone? I know you can't drive, so you get pulled over.
Yeah.
Yeah, cycling without due care and attention.
Why can't they plan these launch side of times, like at 8 p.m.
Well, exactly. In the evening for us. Exactly. I mean, it's just so inconsiderate. But the fog. At least you can see the fog's clearing nicely now.
Yeah.
So just as a sidebar, Rog, you've been looking at the sun today.
Yeah, that's a picture. I get out of the way. This is what I took about half an hour ago.
Oh, nice.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, because I was out with the solar scope, having a look. Because you've got the sort of like the two biggish with some little sunspots on the top on the northern hemisphere, and then on the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, the bottom ones have really stretched out and also completely disappeared.
Yeah, there's a long line of them, isn't it? So so it's I've been having a look today.
Quite a lot in size, so
I
was getting a lot of Twitter responses and Facebook saying it looks like a little face.
Oh, does it?
Okay. a few days ago, yeah.
It's because it's even for me, it's so clear that I can also, when you see the sunspots and then you've got that slightly brown area around the outside, I can also see that today out here. So that was nice. Yeah. So, but you wouldn't be doing that at Boca Chica today, would you? Look at that fog. But it is clearing slowly. You can see it's actually clearing.
It's really looking nice now. And hi, John, for following us. Hello.
Hi, John. So if the children got any questions? We got anything come through?
Children or any viewers, feel free to drop us any questions in relation to this launch. I would be happy to try and answer them. I think one thing that's it's difficult for us to assess is the size of this thing, because we don't have any reference point when we see these images. I just wanted to remind the children that this is the biggest rocket ever to be launched into space. It is humongous. It's the size of a building, of a skyscraper. It's absolutely humongous. And if you would be next to it, you would be your jaw would drop because it's just incredibly big. So these images don't do justice of how big it is.
Yeah, if you had a person stood at the base of that launch platform, they would be minuscule. They would look like little ants compared to it. It is that big. In fact, it's 150. No, that's tons. It's 120 meters high. So we'll have to convert that to pound, shillings, and pence.
400, roughly 400 feet.
Yeah, that's a lot. So what's that? That's a 40-story building.
40 floors, yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah. I've just done the.
I don't know how many giraffes that is.
Or armadillo.
Or armadillos stacked on each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for the people living in England, the best comparison is you'd need to go to London and have a look at some of those. Maybe not the tallest ones, but definitely there will be 40-floor buildings up there, and you'll see how tall it is.
Yeah.
And just be amazing.
So that would like to be about five Nelson columns high.
Oh, nice, Roger. Nice.
Something like that. Maybe it may even be a few more.
We have a question from year one. Do you want to answer that, Daz?
Year one would like to know why it didn't launch last time. Okay. Then last time as you all saw, as they got to towards the end of the countdown, I think it was about 14 minutes. They found that they had some pressure problems in the fuel lines. And as it turned out, they described it as a frozen valve, which is where the fuel passes through, which you can close to shut off the fuel flow when they're fueling. But apparently it frozen and it was creating pressure problems. So they've had to replace that. They've had to do some other things, but that's what it was. They were concerned about the pressures inside the actual booster, because it was on the booster side of it, and that's why they've repaired it now. So hopefully we're going to see this take off very shortly, in about 20 minutes time, all being well. But as we said, this is all testing. And as you know, when you test things and you build things, you have to test them. The things can go wrong, and hopefully we will see this all go well today. But don't be surprised if we do get a cut off again. But we will see. We're fingers crossed. All you children, have your fingers crossed, please. So yeah, Alan Kennedy, are the fueling tanks a bit close? If the worst were to happen and it blows up on the pad, I don't think. Well, it's not just the fuel tanks that you can see in the background. I think there'll be a bit further, a bit more of an area that would be in a bit of jeopardy as well. But I must admit, Alan, I also agree that sometimes they do seem to be quite close. And I remember when they fired the 31 engines, because 2 failed, the exhaust did blow over the tops of these fuel tanks. But I mean, they are protected. There is you can see there's a wall there, actually, you can see. And it is designed to push any exhaust flumes over the top of them. But yes, as you said, if anything does go wrong, they'll need some more tanks, I should think.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, guys. I had problems with my PC slowing down. It's been doing that a few times recently, but I'm back anyway. So as we can see, we're now watching the SpaceX live feed, and everything appears to be going well. Oh, Roger's popped up. Hello, Roger. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
All the better for being
Of
here.
Of course. So we've got about 19 minutes to go, according to that. And the countdown is progressing.
I don't know if you can add any more to year one's question about why it didn't launch last time, Andy.
Well, what happened was they had a fuel valve, which is basically controls the flow of fuel from the fuel tanks to the rocket, and it's obviously got to operate in very, very cold temperatures, and it didn't operate as well as it should have done, and it's stuck in I don't know whether it was an open or closed position, but they couldn't turn the valve on or off, and that was causing big problems. So they had to stop the launch and work out why the valve wasn't working properly, which I think they've now done. They probably replaced the valve because these valves are designed to operate when it's very, very cold. And the problem appears to have been solved. So we're hoping that we get there today. And it's thank you very much for the question. It's great to have the children with us, isn't it, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there very is. Yeah, we just hope everything goes. Yeah, they've all got their fingers crossed. Rachel says so.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, wish on everything that you know. Wish on everything. That Mike astronaut says, do you think the rocket will actually get into space? Mr. Musk says success is one possible outcome. Excitement is guaranteed. Well, we're hoping it gets into space.
Yeah.
We don't want because if you remember on the last program, I was talking about the Russian version, which was close to this, that used 30 engines. Of course, this is using 33 engines. The Russian N1 rocket, which was their answer to the Saturn V, which is to take cosmonauts to the moon. On their fifth attempt at launching resulted in a huge explosion, which was at the time the biggest non-nuclear man-made explosion recorded. Debris was thrown over a 6-mile radius. It completely destroyed the launch pad, and the engineers were not allowed out of their safety bunkers for up to 30 minutes afterwards because it continually rained down rocket fuel. It was that big, and this is the sort of stuff you don't want to be breathing in or getting on your skin. So we don't want to see any of that today. We want this to reach space, do its job, and everything to go fine, and then we can move forward. And of course, we've said it before, Artemis depends upon a successful Starship as well. And that means then we'll be able to go to the moon, and once we've done that, on to Mars. And this is what Mr. Musk's, Elon Musk's plans have always been, to become a spacefaring community and set up a base on Mars. So, yeah.
In terms of the excitement, I think Elon Musk described it as if it doesn't go well, it's an unscheduled. What did he say?
A rapid unscheduled disassembly.
Exactly.
Yeah, a RUD.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Michael. How are you? Are you going to join us in the studio, or are you elsewhere? So hope to see you here if you're out. They're just doing a brief recap of earlier Starships by the look of it on the SpaceX coverage. And I'm sure we'll be returning to Boca Chica very shortly. The countdown is progressing as far as we can see. Thank you all for joining us today. It's very kind of you to pop in and join our coverage.
Yeah, they've started the booster Raptor engine chill down.
Right. So that's the point where they trickle a little bit of cryogenic fuels through the engine to lower their temperature, so that when the valves open and that enormous rush of fuel hits the engines, it's not a thermal shock for them, that they've already cooled down. Otherwise, the engines could just shatter like glass if they're suddenly subject to cryogenic fuels in large quantities. So this is called the engine chills down, where they just trickle a little bit of fuel through the engines to acclimatize them to low temperatures before the launch. So this is good news. It's got that far. And what else is going on here? They're just still recapping on previous launches and events with Starship. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said, viewers, we know that there are a number of channels covering this live today on YouTube. So thank you for coming to ours. We do appreciate it. And if you haven't already, why not hit the subscribe button and the notification icon so that you can be kept up to date with every event that we cover like this. We do try to cover all the major space events. It's not always possible, of course, because some of them are unsocially in the middle of the night. We do try and cover certainly major launches, and anything major going on in space we do cover live. And if this is your first time here today with Space Oddities, you are very welcome, and we hope that you will become a regular viewer. For those of you who might have joined us for the first time, we broadcast live on Monday evenings at 8 p.m. UK time or 3 p.m. Standard Eastern Time, and we usually broadcast for about an hour or an hour and a half, bringing you the universe, anything related to the universe, all the latest news, all the latest stories, special guests, presentations, quizzes, competitions, you name it, we do it. So Monday evenings is the place to be for space on Space Oddities. And as we always say, if it's happening in space, it's happening on Space Oddities.
John Walton says starships have a reputation of blowing up or crash landing, so very expensive excitement. Well, yes, it is, but every time and I think it's Mike Astronaut again. Important to say that it might explode, but SpaceX actually learn as much or more from a fail than a success. So even if it blows up a couple of miles up, it is still a successful test. Yes, exactly. And this is what I was saying. This is absolutely crammed with sensors that will be sending back data.
Yes, absolutely.
Guys, I don't want to jinx anything, but we're further ahead now than we were at the first launch attempt.
Not quite.
Yep.
Not quite. No, it was about 10 minutes. So.
Oh, I got 1 minute wrong then.
Yeah. Yes, just to repeat something I was saying earlier, the Starship has been an iterative development program, a rapid, agile development program, where the idea is to build a spaceship, and if it fails, find out why, fix it, build another one with improvements. If that fails, fix it and find out why, and so on. This is why there have been so many crashes and explosions, but it has enabled SpaceX to develop the Starship as the most quickly developed rocket in spaceflight history. It's only 3 years since the idea of the Starship was first revealed by Elon Musk. So in 3.5 years. So in 3.5 years, we've gone from nothing to an orbital launch attempt. No other rocket has been developed that fast in spaceflight history. And it's been developed that fast because of this iterative process. If it fails, find out why, fix it. If something else fails, find out why, fix it, and so on. And so this is why there have been failures. It was designed to fail. So there we are. Gosh, this is getting exciting now.
It is.
Shall we join the SpaceX audio for the last few minutes, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we're now going to put the SpaceX audio on and see what's going on.
Of course, as part of rapidly iterating with our test program, we're also rapidly iterating on our production system to produce Starships and Super Heavies. Last year, the Starbase team produced 4 Starship Super Heavy boosters and 5 Starships, along with their 200th Raptor 2 engine, and they're only scaling up from there, Kate.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that for 2023, production has 5 boosters and 8 Starships going. So it's incredible. And it's important to have that system fill in basically the manufacturing line so that we have product ready to go as soon as we're done with this test.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I mean, we talked about how Starship is an order of magnitude more payload to orbit. But if you're going to go set up a base on the moon or Mars, you're going to need thousands of metric tons of propellants. And so you're going to need a fleet of vehicles that's capable of doing that.
Yeah, one thing to note, Starbase directly employs more than 1,800 employees. It's the largest employer in the area, in fact. And we're very thankful to Cameron County for being so supportive. This is a view from the Cameron County Amphitheater. And there's a crowd there, and you could tell by the energy here in Hawthorne as well that everyone's getting really exciting. I feel my own heart rate going up and up.
I know. It must be really, really exciting to go see this. And I mean, just the sheer amount of power on Starship, you're going to feel it down there. when this thing lifts off from the pad. We've actually got a great shot here of the natural surroundings around the pad. Oddly enough, most of the pads end up being around sort of wild locations like this. But coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, I think it's another good time for check-in with John.
Thank you, Shiva. T-minus just over 8 minutes to the first test flight of Starship. Currently, we are pressurizing second stage. We are also closing out liquid oxygen and fuel header loads on the second stage. We're also getting ready for propellant load tank pressurization on the first stage. In fact, we are just now closing out header tank load on the second stage. Now, with the header tanks loaded and closed out, that means we're down to just the first stage to finish loading. That'll finish about T-minus 3 minutes. And at that point, when both stages are loaded, we will have the 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board. Now, in the next few minutes, the guidance system will begin its final alignment for flight during a quiet period when the rocket's not doing anything. The automated flight termination system will be armed, and a final TVC checkout will be performed. Those are the engine wiggles, and hopefully we'll be able to see that with the cameras underneath the vehicle and maybe even the second stage engines. And there's a view looking underneath the super heavy first stage with the 33 Raptor engines. Now, a reminder as we continue counting down, if we do need to hold, the point where we hold the clock would be at T-minus 40 seconds. We can pause there. Typically in the past, if we need a little bit more time to finish final checkouts or do some pressurization of the onboard storage tanks, that's where we would hold. But currently, we're not hearing a need to hold, so at 6 minutes, 27 seconds, everything looks good. And of course, Kate, Shiva, as we get close, we're going to get into the engine ignition sequence of 33 Raptors, and that's going to be something new for everybody.
I cannot wait for that moment. So for those of you that are familiar with how we launch Falcon 9 rockets, you probably know that we light all 9 of those first stage Merlin 1D engines all at once. It's pretty different than what we do, or what we're attempting to do today. We're actually going to be igniting those 33 engines in banks or clusters, and that sequence starts at T-minus 6 seconds.
Yeah, and the ignition sequence is a little bit different, both in terms of the timing and also the ignition method. So on Falcon 9, we use a chemical called T-Tab. It's a pyrophoric material, so that means when you mix the two together, it produces a flame that kicks off that green characteristic spark on Falcon 9 missions. But actually on Starship, we use electrical ignition systems. Many of those are integrated on the ground system here. And the electrical ignition, we start lighting the banks at T-minus 6 seconds, and then over the next 4 seconds, the 3 sets of banks will ignite and eventually bring the booster up to a thrust to weight greater than 1 and hopefully ascent.
Super exciting. Like we said, pretty different from our Falcon 9 launches, and so this will be the first time that any of us have gotten to see this type of integrated test flight with both the Starship and the Super Heavy booster.
Everyone's cheering as we get into T-minus 5 minutes.
We want to remind everyone that success today is anything.
Yeah, it looks fun down there. I kind of want to go join them.
For today, success is anything that we learn that helps improve the future build of Starship. If we lift off and clear the pad, we're calling that a win.
A great shot of the pad there. A great shot of the quick disconnect on the second stage. You can see the frost line on the booster where that methane is fully topped up. I think we're just coming up on the last few minutes here of propellant fill on the booster. Now that quick disconnect is going to separate away as we actually get into the ignition sequence, but it's providing electrical connections now and also providing the propellants that we're loading into the vehicle.
Yeah. We're just now under 4 minutes until liftoff of the Starship flight test. We've been following along for what honestly seems like days and days now, but really it kind kind of comes down to years. It has been a long time to get to where we are today. Now, fast forwarding a little bit, we have the opportunity to hold, if necessary, at 40 seconds. And we are able to hold there for about 15 minutes or up to 15 minutes. And still be able to lift off.
Yeah, that's a little bit different from Falcon for the propellant sequence on Falcon that we don't have the opportunity to hold. So that's a cool new capability on Starship.
Yep. Right now, T-minus 3 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. We got some great views from the drone. It's nice that the fog is slowly lifting. We get some of the blue skies, hopefully good views. What we're waiting for right now is closeout of propellant loading on the first stage. That should be wrapping up here shortly. In fact, it looks like fuel fill and drain valves are coming closed. That means first stage is fully loaded, second stage fully loaded, and that 10 million pounds of propellant on board the Starship launch vehicle.
I want to take a quick moment to say that the crowd energy here is electric. I feel like it's Falcon Heavy test demo all over again.
It does.
And hopefully you'll hear us as we get into the plus count. But right now, next activity is coming up. The flight termination system arms at T-minus 2 minutes. Thrust vector control checkouts at T-minus 2 minutes. And then after that, major activity will be the T-minus 40-second gate. There's a view looking up at the 33 Raptor engines. There are 20 engines in a circle on the outside, and as Shiva said earlier, 13 engines on the center. Those are the ones that gimbal and steer the vehicle.
I don't think I've ever seen someone so excited for TVC wiggles.
Love this view. These are the 33 Raptor engines at the base of the Super Heavy booster. I think we can see those wiggles now.
Oh my gosh, this is exciting.
We're currently inside 90 seconds.
Here we go, folks. Here we go.
Next major activity, T-minus 40 seconds. That is a gate, a decision point. We're waiting. Possibility the propulsion team may need a few minutes. Flight termination system is armed for flight. We're getting ready for T-minus 1 minute and counting. Mark, T-minus 1 minute and counting. Next, we'll see as we get past T-minus 40 seconds for final checks of the vehicle.
Oh, here we go. Go, go, go! Restart it!
Oh, what's going on?
What?
They've reset the countdown.
Oh,
Okay, you can see the clock is recycled.
oh dear.
Flight director has called a hold. We are recycling. For the moment, we'll see where they move the clock back to. They could hold at T-minus 40 seconds. They could go to an earlier point. Give us a minute to listen into the nets, and we'll see if we can get you more information to share.
Dear.
Oh dear. Not to worry.
Another step
Doesn't
bold.
necessarily mean anything.
Well, at least it's we're much closer now than we were in the
On
first
Monday,
launch
yeah.
attempt.
Whoa. They can't keep doing this to us.
No.
Well, they're just doing final launch checkouts. It's a sort of a built-in hold, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything is wrong. They're just going through final testing. And if they're happy, they'll proceed.
Anyone who's watching, if you have a weak heart, space is not going to be your thing.
as they used to say on the television before showing horror films, this broadcast is not suitable for anybody of a nervous disposition.
Oh my gosh, this was so close. I could feel my heart palpitating.
Yeah, weak bladder, somebody says, absolutely. But, you know, just to reiterate, this is not a problem, it's just final checks. Just final checks. It's a built-in 40-second hold, 40 seconds before liftoff. They hold to do final checks to make everything certain that everything's going to work. So, repeat, this is not necessarily a problem. They are just at the moment trying to find out what's going on, the commentators, including the legendary John Innesbrook, who you heard speaking there. He's a legendary engineer, works for SpaceX, and he has done a lot of Starship broadcasts when they've launched Starship. And that guy knows what he's talking about.
John Innsbrucker again here at the Hawthorne webcast desk. We're holding a T-minus 40 seconds. What we've heard so far is we have a couple of issues we're working. One is the booster tank pressurization. Final pressurization was just a little bit long. That's not unusual. We've held at T-minus 40 seconds before to pressurize. That appears to have been resolved. At the same time on the second stage, they're working some final purging. We should know very shortly if that is cleared and if we'll continue the countdown.
Everyone, especially that person, is excited to keep going. Like John said, we should know shortly if we are able to continue. But as we mentioned before, we are able to hold up to 15 minutes and still be able to lift off today.
Yeah, on Falcon 9, it's a little bit different. Once we start propellant loading, we pretty much have to go at the targeted time. Otherwise, the propellants can warm up and we may not have the performance for that particular mission profile. It's a little bit different on Starship.
Folks, if I can interrupt,
yeah,
it looks like they're clearing all the flags and we're going to release at T-minus 40 seconds.
That is amazing news.
Amazing.
Team working quickly through their issues on first and second stages.
And I'm sure all of the rehearsals and simulations that they've been doing have prepared them to evaluate this data quickly to try to get us in for today's launch attempt.
For those of you just joining, we have a brief hold at the T-minus 40 second mark. The team is resolving one issue with the bleed purge on the Stage 2 Raptors. Like John just said, the teams are quickly working that, and it looks like the flags are being cleared as we speak. So we should be able to resume the launch countdown any moment now.
And it's worth noting on Starship that once we resume the countdown, it restarts from the 40-second period, and then we keep going unless another condition pops up. So stick around because Starship could be going here real soon.
Don't walk away, that's for sure. Amazing views here coming to us from Starbase, Texas.
Cheering to close the start again.
Here we go!
Oh my God.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Booster upper chamber pressure is nominal.
T-plus 43 seconds into the test flight of the inaugural Starship vehicle. Tower cleared, we're into pitch over. Propulsion reports first stage engines nominal. What a sight from the ground cameras at Starbase. We're flying at twice the thrust of the Saturn V heading to space.
Additional signal, Corpus Christi.
We're throttled down and throttled back up. Going through the period
Oh,
of
look at
maximum
it.
aerodynamic pressure. As the velocity increases, the density of the atmosphere is decreasing,
Max Q.
lessening stress on the vehicle. The call out, max Q
Look at those
now.
engines. They're not all lit.
Continuing to watch the first stage as we head down range. 100 seconds into flight. Our next major activity is going to be
Acquisition
shutdown
signal, Houston.
of the first stage. The Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle. With shutdown, we will get separation of Starship from Super Heavy and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates, we light up 6 engines in a staggered sequence. And if all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the second stage as we prepare for stage separation. Now, after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf.
Oh no, that's the booster, that's the separation.
Not quite separated yet.
Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds. Let's get ready for main engine cutoff.
Booster engine cut off.
Beginning to flip for stage separation.
Separating. Oh dear. Looks like it's falling.
As of right now, we are awaiting stage separation, where Starship should separate from the Super Heavy booster.
Yeah, Kate, right now it looks like we saw the start of the flip, but obviously we're seeing from the ground cameras the entire Starship stack continuing to rotate. We should have had separation by now. Obviously, this is does not appear to be a nominal situation.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning, but I do want to remind everyone that everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake.
Just loaded up.
Oh dear.
And there, as you saw, as we promised, an exciting end to the Starship inaugural integrated test flight.
Oh dear.
Everyone here absolutely pumped to clear the pad and make it this far into the test flight, the first integrated flight of the booster and the Starship vehicle.
Well, there you are. So, viewers, in case you didn't quite catch what was going on, the Starship launched. Perfect, absolutely perfect launch. Ascended to the point where the Starship should have separated from the booster. The booster started the flip maneuver to get the Starship into the correct position for separation. But unfortunately, the Starship didn't separate, and the whole vehicle exploded shortly afterwards. But this is a major, major win for SpaceX. This is a major step forward. What did you think, guys?
Oh, fantastic. It seemed to lose control. I don't know whether it was just with the cameras or whether they were using drones or something, but it seemed to lose control before it was due to separate.
Yes, indeed.
Seemed to be tumbling and things like that. But yes, it flew. It flew. And of course, when we saw the bottom of the actual rocket, you could see that not all the engines had lit either.
Yes, I think it was, Mike said that it had actually launched with 28 engines. 5 engines had failed. And that explosion was probably the flight termination system. The vehicle was intentionally detonated when they realized that something was wrong. So they intentionally exploded it and destroyed it. But the rocket ascended. It got through max Q without any problems. The moment of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. And this is not a total success for SpaceX. But as Elon Musk said, if it got off the pad without exploding, he would consider that a major success. So we now await the follow-up launch. We don't know when that's going to be. They need to sort some problems, obviously, which they undoubtedly will. I'm sure it's nothing that they can't solve. And there we are. But what a spectacle of the Starship launching. And also seeing the Earth from the Starship for the first time from that altitude. Amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you can tell by their reaction that they're delighted with what's actually happened, even though, I mean, we could, most people would turn around and say, oh, it was a failure, but it wasn't.
No.
I mean, now they're going to go to the data. They're going to go through that data with a fine-tooth comb, correct anything that was incorrect, and it flew. It flew. I mean, to be quite honest, I'm shaking. I really am shaking. To see something like that.
Yeah, sorry, just answer a question
Sorry?
from our Facebook user. The plan for today was to reach orbital height and velocity and complete most of one orbit around the Earth before the Starship was due to splash down off the coast of Hawaii. So it was an orbital flight planned, but it didn't work out that way. So thank you for your question. Guys, I have to rush now, so I must go. But you're welcome to stay here, obviously. But I'd just like to say goodbye to our viewers. I have to go now, unfortunately, things to do. And thank you so much for joining us for our live coverage here on Space Oddities. We're very grateful for you being here. And keep your eye on our Facebook page. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll keep you up to date with all the very, very latest information. So, guys, unless you want to say anything else,
no, that was great. I mean, we got what we wanted. It's off the ground.
And the tower.
You know, onwards and upwards now. Literally, fantastic.
So from all of us at SpaceX,
thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you very soon. Keep your eye on our channel and on our Facebook page, where we'll keep you updated with what's happening as ever. So take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic day, and from us here at Space Oddities.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.
See you Monday.